Hey, what it do, y'all? It's your boy E2 Blue coming back at you again. Recording on my new phone. I don't know how clear it is. It looks clear as hell. Y'all let me know how clear this is. I got the new Samsung Galaxy S22 or whatever, but this camera is crazy. And this is the inward camera. This ain't even the outer camera. The outer camera got like 5 lenses or something like that. But anywho, not here to talk about that, but just the recent news about the Dallas Cowboys and the whole Amari Cooper and the free agency and Stephen Jones. What does Big Game James call him? Baby nuts, because he thinks that he's too much of a pump to get a good player in free agency. We'll talk about some of those things, but anywho, going into this team, right? So we've had conversations before. Me, Mark, DMV. We've had conversations about every year our team not really being big players in free agency. I don't always expect you to be, because that's not really how you build your team in free agency. You get pieces in free agency. You get players that make sense to what you're doing as far as your team goes. Now, this whole Amari Cooper thing is really stupid. Just shout out to Law Nation for breaking it down. But I already knew, because I saw these games, looking at these games, and I'm like, they're trying to, it's almost like Stephen Jones is copping out for his mistakes and the front office's mistakes. Basically saying that, Amari Cooper's, everybody's talking about his numbers going down. That ain't his fault. Amari Cooper cannot throw himself the ball. Amari Cooper is not calling the plays. Amari Cooper is not putting himself in the situations that they're putting him in to not get the ball. Why is it that a third round pick like Cooper Kupp for the Rams can be a Super Bowl MVP? How is he making things happen? How is Mike Evans doing well with the Buccaneers? How is any other top wide receiver that's doing great for their team and getting the ball 80-something% of the time, but we can't do that with Amari Cooper when he's one of the best route runners in the league. If you go back and look at the plays that he's caught balls for touchdowns and or long pass plays, he's very much vital to this team. So losing Cooper would be a tremendous mistake. I hear word that they're in talks with trying to re-sign Gallup. I have no problem with you re-signing Gallup, but not at the expense of Amari Cooper. See, this is the thing. The value that Gallup brings is different than what Cooper has. Gallup is not a number one receiver. He's not a number one receiver. He will never be a number one receiver. But Gallup does well as a supporting cast wide receiver, whether it's the second or the third. He can play either the 2 or the 3. Gallup is a deep threat guy, and that's probably one of the reasons why they're keeping him, because of the chemistry with Dak. But so does Cooper. But Cooper is your number one, right? So we've seen how this offense functions without Cooper in there. Do we want that? Y'all remember, before we got Coop, we were 3-5 coming into that, before we traded for Coop. You traded a number one to get Coop. Now you're trying to trade him again or somehow release him. I get that you need money, but you're the one that put them in the situation, not Cooper. That's not Cooper's fault. Let's go back to them signing players that they shouldn't have. Not saying anything bad about Jalen Smith, but you knew what Jalen was coming into the league. You knew that he had that drop foot situation from the nerve damage from the bowl game. Not only did you draft him, but you re-signed him for a second contract. And you signed him for your quarterback. But what did Stephen Jones do? He blamed Dak for the reason why we can't do, Dak's taking a lot of the money, pieces of the pie. Let me tell you something. Every team that has a franchise quarterback has that quarterback that has to get paid like a franchise quarterback, and they take up much of the piece of the pie. Other teams are able to figure out their cap. Why can't you, baby nuts? Figure it out. Figure it out. Figure out what your issue is. I don't think Steven needs to be dealing with the cap money, because apparently he ain't doing it right. We talked about him not liking free agency. You don't like free agency part of the reason, in my opinion, is because you're not good at it. You're not good at it. Has Stephen Jones worked for any other organization in the NFL outside of the Dallas Cowboys? No. He's only worked under his father. So without him being with the Cowboys, he really has no experience in this type of thing. And I feel like the Cowboys are so arrogant in the way that they do things, and I'm speaking as far as the front office goes, that they're not understanding that their way is not working and they need to fix it. See, I love Mike McCarthy's philosophy. Mike McCarthy says, hey, if we draft a player and he doesn't fit our system, but he's a really good player, must mean that there's something wrong with our system. We need to tweak it and fix it so this player could work in our system. See, I love that. And that's how it should be. Your system works around the player, not the player working around the system. Because when you're so tied into a particular system, you put yourself in a box, which means that, yeah, you might win games in the regular season, but by the time you get to the playoffs, you ain't got nothing, because by then teams have done their research, they know your tendencies, they know what you do, and they know that you're strict to this one thing. But when you're a team that has an open book where you're open to different things, teams can never guess what you're doing. A lot of those look at the Arizona game. Perfect example. Buda Baker and company on defense, and Chandler and them, they were able to bat the ball down before Dak was able to do anything. You know why? Because they learned the tendencies in our offense, Kellen Moore. Figure it out. Change it. Switch it up. Do something different. I said this before. They went and got Mike McCarthy to be the coach of this team because you trust what he does as a coach. But you don't allow him to run the offense. Like, we're still running Jason Garrett's offense. We're still not in Mike McCarthy's system. So we're trying to already put him in the hot seat when you had Jason Garrett for 10 years, and you're already trying to get rid of Mike McCarthy after only a few seasons, and he hasn't even been able to coach the team like he wants to coach the team, and you force-fed Kellen Moore to him. Mike McCarthy is used to calling his own plays, but you force-fed Kellen Moore, Jerry Jones, to be the play caller. And I'm not mad at Kellen. Kellen don't know no better because he learned under Scott Linehan and Jason Garrett. He's under that Garrett tree. So that's all he knows. The difference between him and Garrett is the fact that he's, you know, a gunslinger type of coordinator, which he was when he was a quarterback. So you did see a little different things that we did like with Kellen Moore, but it stops there. Still, the predictability is the same. So if that's the case, you should have kept Kellen Moore as the quarterback's coach, allowed Mike McCarthy to call his own plays, or bring in another coordinator in here that does kind of what Mike is trying to do that makes sense. That's the riff right now. That's the reason why we fell flat in the end of the season and how we lost to Denver and the Chiefs and things of that nature, because we're not switching things up. A good team is going to know how to play you defensively, and they're going to crush you. And that's what happened with our team. Yes, we were 12-5, thanks to Mike McCarthy and Dan Quinn. I love both of those coaches. They need to still be here. But we need to let them. Only way that they can succeed is if Jerry Jones and the front office gets out of the fucking way so they can do what they need to do. Why do we always have to be such a dramatic team? Why do we always have to consistently be in the news, Jerry? Why can't we go through an offseason where you don't hear nothing about the Dallas Cowboys? Have you heard anything about Tampa Bay? I mean, or Green Bay since the end of the season? All these other teams could go away silently in the offseason and you don't hear nothing from them until the draft starts. But no, the Cowboys got to be all in the news, dancing in the videos. You know the reference I'm getting to with that. But why y'all got to keep doing that? Why did we have to keep being the center of attention? Why? Jerry Jones, P. Diddy, stay out of the way and allow your artists, your coaches and players run this team. That's the issue that we're having here. And then you sign in, they talk about, in free agency, Stephen Jones, I'm in free agency, you sign good players as great players and subpar players as good players. Okay. You're doing the same thing with your own players that's on your team. Some of the players that you didn't let go should have been let go, that you signed a bigger contract. So you signed Jalen Smith, and then the next season you decide that you want to release him halfway through the season, and now you still have to pay him that money. That's dead money that we didn't need to have. So don't blame Dak, blame yourself for fucking this cap up for years. Now, the whole D-Law thing. Yes, you go to D-Law asking for a pay cut. Of course he's not going to adhere to that. I think D-Law is still one of a premier pass rushers in his league. I know that the sacks were down. A lot of it has to do with his availability, too. He's been hurt. But you notice a difference when he's in the game. Whether he's getting sacks or not, he's still getting pressures. He's still helping the rest of that defensive line out. Now, if you outright go ahead and cut D-Law, you might get some money, 16 mil, but you're still going to have dead money on top of that if you don't do it after this post June 1. Another thing, too, his D-Law's future with the Cowboys is really contingent on what the rest of this defensive line looks like. Because are we going to keep Randy Gregory? Are you going to re-sign Dorrance Armstrong? Although Dorrance Armstrong is a rotational guy and he's more of a special teams guy that plays defense, he's not like a starter. But if you were to compare him to Randy Gregory, it's either one or the other. Now, I would love to keep both, but you can, and if you want to, you can restructure his contract, give him some of that money and push the money down the hill, because next year, technically, 2023, there's really nobody big to sign that's contract up outside of Anthony Brown. But 2024 is when you're going to have the issues. 2024 is when Trayvon Diggs come up. CeeDee Lamb, but they'll more than likely do the 5th-year option on him. Tristan Hill. Those are when those contracts start coming up, and it's like, ooh, that's in 24. But right now, work for right now. Don't worry about later. Because if you want to win, sometimes you got to do what the Rams did. They went all out. They did what they needed to do. And they won a Super Bowl. Once you win a Super Bowl, you can breathe easy. But we can't breathe easy because we ain't won a Super Bowl since 96. So, with that being said, they need to figure it out. If you're going to get rid of somebody, if you're going to keep Randy Gregory, then okay. If you get rid of D-Law, then you could draft somebody else. But you can't lose that many players. And you also can't lose Coop. Because if you lose Coop, I don't think there's a first-round draft pick in here that's as good as Coop. So, I'm just saying. You can't gun on Gallup because we don't know exactly when he's going to be back for that ACL. And it is what it is. You're going to need the help. You got to resign these guys. You got to figure out what you're going to do. Because Cedric Wilson's contract is up. Malik Turner's contract is up. Cowboys got to figure it out. They got to figure it out. But I think losing Coop would be a bad idea. And this organization needs to stop it. Because I heard that the Philadelphia Eagles are waiting for us to release Coop. And what's going to happen is, if the Philadelphia Eagles pick up Coop after we let him go, we're going to be sitting here with egg on our face because he's going to burn us twice a year. And we're going to be like, oh, it's because we didn't use Coop right. It wasn't Coop's fault. It's because we didn't use him right. That's what happens. Same thing with Dez Bryant. You blamed him for all that shit. That shit wasn't Dez's fault. I need this organization, I need this front office to man the fuck up and take ownership to their own problems and stop blaming on the fucking players. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. It's your boy E2 Blue. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. Peace out.